Um, Joe, Joe Moto, right? I believe.
Mercy and Joe.
Hi,
Marty
Dr.
and,
Lopes.
and Joe. Hey, I've been thinking about you guys. I know your big day's coming. Then yesterday I was driving
Um,
home and I was like, oh my God, I got to
my
email
big
them.
day, my big day came today, and I passed. I passed
Woo-hoo.
the board. So
Okay.
thank you so much.
And
Thank
Joe is following a couple days later, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yes, during So if I have like a couple of minutes, just for everyone that's already on, I
Mm,
just want to remind everyone, Dr. Lopez is top notch. He is on
aw,
it.
you're so
Everything I
kind.
saw today,
Oh
I
my
just
God.
kept recalling everything that Dr. Lopez went over. If you go through all those modules, do all those the test, the first diagnostic test, the second, the third, you will be pleasantly surprised at some of the questions that you will see. They will absolutely be like, yes, I know this, I know this. So yeah, that's really what I have to say. Just, stay calm, stay focused on reviewing the same material, and you will do just fine. You will do absolutely fine.
Wow. Thank you so much. That's very encouraging. And I'm always thankful and kind of like, what things do you think the course helped you the most? The most?
Um, I think what was helpful is how you actually go more in depth with explaining, especially when we talk about like the motivational interview. There were a lot of questions
Right.
on
Okay.
motivational. So, that whole frames. So I think
Mm,
explaining that was helpful. The recovery,
model. Okay.
yes. I must have been maybe 5 questions just on that.
Wow.
They're
Wow.
big on that. Um, yeah, I mean, like I said, some of the things are really straight from what you were saying with the culture, a lot of culture questions. So you
Mm,
want to go susto, wind and
mm,
cold. Know the cows. That was big. Know the symptoms on
mm-hmm.
cows and when to give the medication.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the main medications that I saw were, Depakote and Lamictal,
Mm-hmm.
Integratol,
Mm-hmm.
Zol, which is the inhibitor given with contraceptives,
Mm-hmm.
helpful. The Clozaril was really obvious, like with the weight
Yeah.
count, less than that. Lithium, kind of know the signs and symptoms. Um, oh yeah, there was a question on lithium that I wasn't quite sure of if I was correct, but it was
Sure. Ask
something
me.
about, yeah. So something about a young girl that was going on a camping trip for a week, and she's on lithium. And the question I wanted to know, like, what
Okay. I
what
I go ahead. I am already imagining what the
okay.
what the camping trip would be question like. I already have my own suspicions, but please go ahead.
Yeah, so I was a little stuck on the way they say it. Okay, what statement from the girl shows that she has a good understanding of her medication?
Okay. Did the
And
question say it was in the summer, winter, or anything like that?
it didn't say that. It just said 1 week of hiking.
Okay, so that's it. She said it.
Right.
Well, we have it 1 week of a hike. What kind of questions could she propose? Not propose. She's not getting married to nobody. What question she hiking 1 week? What do we have? Dehydration. How do you
Right.
ensure the
Mhm.
patient understanding by saying, "Hey, I will be outside, maybe working a construction, maybe I'll be hiking, playing soccer." Dehydration. It was probably your answer. That's what they're looking for. It's like, hey, does the patient understand what dehydration has to do with lithium, right? I'm
Right.
assuming, I have no idea what you picked and what it was there, but my mind just goes in a wonderland and kind of tries to, okay,
Right. That was there. I mean, I thought a little tricky because they included too, like she talks to her, the lead person there and explains her diagnosis and her medications. And then another option was she talks to her friend and asks her friend to remind her to make sure she takes her medications every day. And then, of course, the third option was that she packed like a gallon of container to make sure she does not get thirsty.
Okay, that is.
Right.
But the other one, the police.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people, you've talked about this, and I know people have asked about the Tarasoff law.
Principle, yeah.
Yeah. So it didn't mention Tarasoff, but it said, if a young man comes to your office and he's homicidal and he's threatening to harm his dad, and he has a plan, he wants to use a knife, and this kid has a history of violence towards the family. So do you call the dad, or do you call the police to arrest him?
Okay. Ooh, that's tricky, right? Because
Yeah.
the intent is not to arrest, so that cannot be right.
Right. So that's
So
why I
we
said,
don't-
well,
yeah.
I really want to call the dad, because the kid
Right.
has a history with
So
it.
did the question mention that you have the information of the dad?
It didn't say that. And it didn't
Oh,
say
okay.
the state has the Tarasoff law or anything like that.
Yeah, but did the question say you have the information that you can contact the dad on file?
It didn't expand
Okay.
on that. It just said, the son has a history of being violent towards the family.
Mm,
Yeah, so it was a little.
yeah. We need a little bit more detail to decode the question. Usually, questions would say you have the file of the imminent dangerous person. In that,
Right.
it's kind of cue you in, hey, call and alert, right? But I
Right.
can tell you that to call the police and arrest is wrong. because
Yeah,
it's
that's
not
why I
the
didn't
goal.
do that.
That's not the goal, right? We don't want them to arrest.
No,
We wanna
to
make-
arrest in your
contain the
office.
problem, but not arrest nobody. That's never the
Right.
goal.
No,
Which is
and then
tricky, yeah.
real quick, another one I remembered. They're talking about a young lady comes in, and she says, "Oh, my memory's been so bad." She's only like in her 30s. She says, "My memory's been bad. I don't even remember anything that happened at my sister's wedding. Like I don't
Okay.
remember anything about my being at my sister's wedding. I think I have ADHD. Can I have an ADHD screening?" And so the answers went on to say ADHD was number one. Number two was dissociative assessment. And then the other two didn't make sense. So I was thinking dissociative makes sense because with ADHD, it's not about memory. Because they stressed, more about the memory and not recalling being at their sister's wedding.
Any answers like with the words of anchoring her memory?
No, not that one. I was looking for that, but no. It
Not
only had
anchoring.
screening tools, like what type of, do you do the adult ADHD screening, or do you assess for the dissociative disorder?
Yeah, unfortunately, I would say dissociative disorders oftentimes is associated with trauma, right? Maybe there was something that would lead to that in the question. Otherwise, it would be a kind of hard to pick dissociative disorder. I mean, not that it would be impossible, but maybe something with organizational skills or functioning, things along those lines goes well with questions like that. But it's really hard to remember because it's kind of like we just see portion of the question.
Right.
It could be like one little thing that kind of cues you in on the right answers.
Yeah,
But-
because it's based on the what the patient is saying. What would you assess?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well-
the patient was asking for ADHD screening, but I was thinking, well, she doesn't have any ADHD symptoms. It's just the memory, and she's completely forgetting not being at her sister's wedding. That's kind of, but I don't know. So
Yeah, we can't really discuss details on anything, but we can always talk about points that can be memorable to you, and But yeah, Joe, super congratulations. It's awesome that you stopped by and give your feedback on the course, and really that you achieved the result. Remember when I said that you will pass, right?
Right, you were right. So thank you so much.
I never tell anyone that they will pass if I don't feel confident, or if at least the data doesn't support that. Like, so we back up recommendations on data, and this is why I said you need your own set of coursework, and Joe, needs their own, because otherwise you will get confused, and then recommendations could be skewed. But I look at that in order to say, look, I have no problem saying that you will pass. Zero.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much. But yes, everyone, you will do great. I know it's a lot of anxiety, but good anxiety, don't let it get to a panic state where you're panicking. Just remember you have all the information. Just focus one question at a time, and you will get through it. Absolutely.
Amen. Good job. Now go on to see less patients, have a beautiful life, make this type of enrichment. I think life, some people that may lack motivations to study, or you have to push it through it. You have to put the time. Enrolling in the course is not a guarantee that you will pass. Never mention that you gotta put the time into it. You gotta understand. You gotta seek more information, clarifications from the course. It's not a magic bullet, right? We don't have ways to be like, here you go, your magic bullet. Buy the course and you will pass. It will never be this way, right? But it is a time commitment. A day in, day out, and waking up early, 1 hour a day, and maybe doing this for 8 weeks. And I know you did that, and I know you kind of started the program a little bit later, and almost like, oh my God, I gotta it was probably 20 days before your test, but you really communicated, and you really done a lot of work in 20 days. You participated on the Kahoot.
Right.
You went to the live classes and all that, right?
Absolutely. Yep. Go through those modules, and we just did the crash course because, like Dr. Lopez said, we joined late, but go through that whole module 6, all of those, and then go over ones like the medications, just kind of go through it all. Like you say, it's 2, 3, 4 hours a day if you can. On days you need a break, that's fine, but the material is on point. Absolutely.
Good. Well, I'll open the question for any of the students real quick, and then we're gonna move on to what we need to do today. Clover, do you have a question there?
No, Dr. Lopez, I'm sorry, that was by error. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. See if anybody has a quick question. Guys, what we're gonna do today is...
I do have, Dr. Lopez, good evening.
Yes.
I do have a quick question. Where do I put my answer?
Okay, on your phone.
I have the phone. I have the computer. I have the phone.
Okay, gather your phone and open the camera on the QR code on the screen. And then it will ask you for a nickname.
I changed my nickname.
And then if you see your nickname, you are in. You just got to wait for the game to start.
How do I put, I see my nick? No, not mine.
Yeah.
I don't see it. But where do I put my answer?
On your phone.
But I don't see. What key do I press?
Well, the question is not up yet.
Okay.
But you got to make sure that you see your name on the screen.
It's not showing. It's not showing yet.
It should have if you said you put your nickname. All right. Okay. Christine, you have a question?
Yes, I was asking the same thing, but I did the QR code. And I see myself on the computer. Thank you.
Okay.
My nickname. Thank you.
Perfect.
Yes, Dr. Lopez.
Yes.
Which link are we using to log in on my computer? Are we using the same one?
So you're gonna log in on your phone, right?
Yes, I'm on my phone. Yeah.
And then you can put any name you want. You can put your real name, you can put a fake name, whatever you want to do.
Where do I put?
So once you log in, once you do the QR code, it will ask you for a nickname.
Well, I haven't. I don't see the QR code because I don't have it on my desktop. That's what I was trying to get on my desktop.
Yeah. So
is it the same link?
So
for the desktop?
No. So the desktop is the meeting that you are on now.
Okay. But
and you use your phone to play the game.
Yeah, I did not receive an email for the game today. So let me type in this one then on my desktop.
I think, I'm not sure if the desktop will work. It probably will. But if you do, you got to go to www.kahoots.it,
Okay.
not .com, IT.
Okay.
And then it will ask you for a PIN code. The PIN code is
4,
425
2,
214.
214. 42I 214.
425 214. And then Kahoot.it, not .com.
.it.
Okay. All right, everybody. What we'll do, Rosemary, we gotta get
keep going. Yeah, keep going.
What we're gonna do, guys, is a little bit different today. So I just want to make sure that you are logged in, and we'll come back for this, and we'll be able to play it right away. So what we're gonna do, about 15 minutes of a very, very fast review of what we learned last time. It will be fast. It's not an explanation. It's more of a, hey, can we remember what we studied together last class, right? That way we can get going super fast. So I cannot take questions at this time. It's just a very fast review here, okay? And can you guys see my screen? And I got can you guys see my, yep, great. All right, very fast, okay? So first thing we're gonna look at it is scope versus state. Remember, scope is mostly related to what can you do at your state level. One state is very different than the other, right? When we talked about scope, think of the State Board of Nursing and the legislation within that state, right? And it tells you what your roles and function within the NP community or your specialty. When you talk about standard, is what ANA has said, hey, this is the standard of care. Why? Well, because it's comparing you to a reasonable, prudent criteria or another person in the same category as you, as a PMHNP. Also, it's a way to judge the care. It's a way to take you to court and say you met the standard or you didn't meet the standard, right? And who sets the code? ANA, right? The NP codes of ethics, ANA. All right. So confidentiality, right? We talked a lot about confidentiality. We talked about 2 different authorizations needed to have a patient's chart being released when the patient has a psychiatric condition and a substance disorder condition. You need 2 of them. We talked about the reasons for HIPAA. It's not only a national electronically medical records, but a national ID for providers. And also to kind of put a break on allowing anyone to release the information. So that's why we have HIPAA's law. We talked about breach of confidentiality, right? When can we breach the confidentiality? We talked about what are the exceptions? Well, when someone has a intent to harm themselves or other, then you can break confidentiality. When the court says you can break confidentiality, or when consent is implied in a sense that you found someone passed out and you need to release the information in order to provide care, right? So also we talked about state mandated. In psychiatry is mostly related to children and abuse, elderly abuse is a state mandated, right? Obviously, insurance company, they need this, otherwise how can they pay for the bill, right? What else? Tarasoff principle is the same as duty to warn. We talked about alerting the State Board of Nursing, again, because that's to find out if it is within your scope versus calling the police to during a imminent danger situation, right? These are reasons for. And we talked about habeas corpus, meaning that unlawful detention without due process is illegal. We talked about O'Connor case, one in which the patient was in confined hospitalization inpatient for 15 years. We talked about the three patients' rights: least restricted environment, informed consent, and confidentiality. So it's three, not two, right? Three patients' right. The patient has a right to confidentiality. We talked about Rainey versus claim, that a patient may refuse treatment. Roger versus O'King, the patient may um, decline treatment, but the parents or guardian can authorize. We talked about Durham versus USA, that a individual is not criminally responsible unless if it was an act of is not criminally responsible if the unlawful act was due to mental health condition, meaning hallucinating, psychotic, things like that nature. Not saying that anyone with a mental health condition will have a free card. We talked about Ford versus Wainwright, meaning in order the patient must be competent to be executed. And we talked about historic law, money under the table, right? We talked about informed consent is a communication between you and the patient, right? In order to alert and give the patients options to proceed with treatment or not, right? We talked about ethical principle. I can guarantee you will get lots of questions on ethical principles. So you really gotta know those ethical principles. When you have questions about ethical principles, ask yourself, or in fact, any question, even if they match it non-maleficence with the correct terminology of doing no harm, ask yourself, is this question about non-maleficence, right? What I'm alerting you guys to is that in almost every question, you will see a correct statement. However, correct statement that's not answering your question, it is incorrect. Okay? We talked about non-maleficence, beneficence, fidelity, veracity, autonomy, respect. These things are important, right? Then we talked about PICO question. You got to know what PICO stands for. You got to know who is on the top of the pyramid, right? As in systemic review or meta-analysis. And we got to know who's at the bottom of the pyramid, meaning the expert opinion, right? So it's very important you know your research and what PICO stands for, because we want to use always evidence-based. And specifically for this module, ANA or the board says it will be 27 questions. So it's a lot of questions, okay? We talked about culture. You want to give a culturally sensitive answer. We talked about the patient's right to confidentiality, informed consent, least restricted environment. We talked about healthcare policy, right? And we give this acronym, formulation, implementation, and evaluation. We talked about environment where the healthcare policy takes place. And we talked about things like addressing organization barriers and facilitated before when you're trying to do a policy within your organization. How can you advocate for the patient? Well, you do that anytime you are reducing the stigma for mental health. You're doing that by education, right? But you have to respect autonomy versus self-differentiate, determination, which is allowing the customer, the patient, to make their own choice. We talked about just culture, which is nothing but trying to look at the system and see, hey, is this person really to blame for, or can the system be improved? What else talked about? We talked about ADA, which is American with Disability Act, that allows those with disabilities to have fair competition, I guess I would say, not competition, fair work laws, so that they can be contributing members to society. We talked about quality improvement. Anytime we hear quality improvement, we got to think about two things: retrospective charting and PDSA. You got to know what PDSA is, right? Plan, do, study, act. It's not act, study, plan, or do. It's not study, do, plan, or act. It's in this order. Okay. What else we talked about? We'll give you examples of a reflective practice, thinking about what happened during the incident. When someone gives you feedback, that is reflective practice. That is a debriefing. Reflective practice equals to debriefing. All right. We talked about the patient-centered care model, in which we, the medical model mostly care about the diagnosis. Here's the medication, while the patient-centered care, patient-centered model really takes the patient in consideration, what's important to them. We talked about social determinants of health, which is nothing but everything that would prevent the patient from getting the health that they need, right? Whether it's social, cultural, financial, education, lack of resource, these all are things to consider that could lead to a decrease in mental health availability, right, for others, especially those with possible already things that they already have in the in their baggage due to whether it's sex, mental health conditions, finance issues. All right, guys, so this was fast, right? This wasn't a class. It was just a recap. So what we're going to do today is, if you haven't logged in, please use your QR code and log in. You have 2 minutes before we get started. What we're going to do today is give the first 5 players $50 towards a psychopharmacology course, for example, right? I cannot give the flashcards because it cost me that much, right? There's nothing for me in there. I just pass it on. It's a Brainscape app. But for those that pass, for those that are already, for those that will pass the board immediately, if you are scoring a top 5, I mean, you want to do that for each of the modules, right? But you really should feel confident. We do have a lot of people. I'm not even sure how many today. This is a free class. We allowed everyone in the community to participate. Okay. So what you do is the top 5, you got to email me immediately after today's event. I'll put a little reminder. And when you pass the board, if you feel that you want another course, or if you bought one course now and you want something else, I will apply the credit towards whatever you want. I just cannot do for the flashcard because that will cost me out of pocket myself all that money. So, but for anything that belongs to me, all what I care is that you understand the content, that you really succeed, that you are empowered, and you take someone under their wing, right? If someone has been kind to you, and if you felt that you got community support someone else. There's a lot of students out there that they don't have money. There is a lot of students out there that are struggling. They may be single moms, single dads, and all kinds of problems. So your job, not only when you pass the board, is really to be kind, to be a light in the darkness and help someone. That is our calling, or at least I believe that's our calling in this world. Remember, we came with nothing, and I don't care how much money you have, you're gonna leave with nothing. There is nothing. Even the richest person in the world is gonna leave just like the most needy person at this moment. So there is nothing there, right? Meet your basics and be the light. We have 2 minutes. I don't want to take much of your time.
Dr. Lopez, I am so sorry.
Go ahead. If you do have a question, ask.
I have a quick question. It's
Please go ahead.
So when the game starts, it's gonna show up on my phone as well?
Yes, it should.
And
But
that's
what I do is blow up the screen a little bit so you can see the answer. So thank you for reminding me.
Okay.
In Kahoot, sorry if I got you short there, but I just want to remind everyone because Kahoot is very, very tricky. It takes about 6 hours to complete a Kahoot game. It's a lot of work that goes into a Kahoot game because you cannot just copy and paste. You have to be very creative. So what I'm trying to say to you is the answers will always be grammatically incorrect. They will be short to the point because it only allows me very little space to write an answer. Okay, so do your best to understand what the answer is trying to say, and then when I show the next slide, we'll have a more complete answer of the rationales. Again, Kahoot, you get points for being fast, and you get less points for being right. You get more points for being right, and then second for being fast. This is good because the game is set for one minute. 1 minute.
I can't find mine now. I don't
Dr.
see
Lopez, I am frustrated. Now when I talk.
Okay, everyone else, please mute yourself. Go ahead, Cecilia, if you do have a question.
Yes, sir. I am on my phone. I am on the computer. On both of them, I click my link, and then that's when I see the QR code. I click the QR code. So now I'm on 2 applications.
Okay, Cecilia, I don't know where you are, but all you have to do is either click the QR code and enter your nickname on your phone. Remember, you are on a Google Meet on your computer. On your phone is where you play, you press answers.
I
don't understand, Cecilia. You have two. You logged in twice on So you have to log off one of them. You have two logged in. As far as the Google Meet.
Okay.
All right. So what we're gonna do, Cecilia, is
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. All right. So on this meeting, you do nothing, just but listen to me and read the screen, read the question. On your phone, you enter the answers. Okay. So we'll have to get going because I don't want to take everyone's time. But if you do have a question, please put it in a chat box and I'll be able to answer. Okay. Use your phone to snap the game ping to play. Log off your phone.
Hello?
Yes. All right, we'll get started. Cecilia, if you do have a question, put on a chat box, okay? 1, 2, 3, you have 1 minute. Good luck, everyone. All right, here we go. Getting started. What happened to the music? Use your phone to press one of the 4 colors.
I'm not even seeing the questions, Dr. Lopez.
1 second. Can't stop now.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So, Rosemary, the question
Yes.
was showing on the Google Meet.
On my desktop.
Yes.
So that's why I was asking the link to get on my desktop so I could put it in and
You
see the
are.
question.
Yeah, you are on your desktop link because you were speaking. I mean,
No,
you are
I'm
on
on
the
my
link for the
phone.
meeting.
I'm on my phone. I'm using my phone
Oh,
to talk to you. Yeah. But I
yeah.
want it to be on my desktop.
So look at the email. I don't have the link. Look on your
Okay.
email for the link.
That's I
Okay.
did not receive it. I only have the last one I had
All
was the
right.
one
No
for
problem. I'm gonna put in this chat box, and then
thank
you
you.
can copy and paste here, and then
Yes.
log in on
Yeah.
yeah. You have to copy and paste. 1 second, please.
Okay.
Oh gosh. Okay. Where's the? Here we go. All right, everyone, give me a second, please, and we are going to the next question. All right, so let's talk about this for a second. Anytime, Cecilia, you have the link there for the meeting. Now, anytime you have a question that says safety planning, right? Be very aware that it might be the right answer. Never safety contract, always safety planning, right? And just because someone is manic, it doesn't mean that it is an absolute involuntarily admission. Okay, so I think these are the 2 points that we mentioned. So we have Sweet, Toy, TT, JC, and Gina took the lead here. 1 second, Queen, go ahead, ask your question while I post the answers here. Rosemary, can you mute yourself? Queen, do you have a question?
Yes.
Well, 1 second, everyone. Sorry, getting these technical issues here is resolved so everyone can participate. Queen, if you do have a question, you are muted.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Okay, so the reason why I chose admit to the hospital was because it said the psych MP was stating that the patient is a danger to themselves. So if you now assume the patient is a danger to themselves, why are you talking about safety planning if you already assess that they're a danger to themselves and others?
Right. But you always want to collaborate with the patient, right? It's not just if you assess and you said, hey, it's a maybe dangerous, you cannot just go immediately. Remember, patients have a right to and someone said maybe, I don't remember the link, the question. But the point is, whether they are or they aren't, you always want to collaborate on the safety planning and discuss those things about what should be the next step. Okay, but it is a convoluted question. I totally get it. But anytime you see safety planning, it's super high yield. In fact, one study had mentioned a decrease of to 76% in suicidality when we do safety planning. Okay, so look for the full answer here, and we'll keep on moving. Otherwise, this will take a little while. Okay. Thank you for the question. It's important that you guys always express your concerns and the reasons why. Yeah, the patient did not have a plan, so that's another reason or intent. Two 20 seconds left. All right, got 5 seconds. Pick an answer and go. All right. So in between those options, right, we have the strongest answer is assess the risk for refusing hospitalization, document the refuse, and assess for safety, right? So the second most, I think, was respect the patient's autonomy and provide outpatient treatment options. I get it. You are respecting the patient's autonomies by saying, hey, you do not need to be hospitalized. That is a noble thing to do. However, what you need to do is go a little bit farther than that, right? You need to provide, hey, I do respect that you do not want to be hospitalized. However, I want to assess for your safety and so on, right? So here is what a full answer would look like. So you got to balance the principle between respect of the patient's autonomy and the safety, right? It will very, very rarely in real life just one or another, right? You always got to work with the patient on both sides, doing what the patients prefer, but also ensuring safety for themselves and the public. Okay, next question. All right, so here we have a balance between adding something else versus adjusting the SSRI. Note that the question said 6 months, right? So now they are way past the risk of suicidality due to the SSRI, and they are more into adjustment of the medication, right? So that it would be the difference between someone being offered an SSRI and developing suicidal thoughts. In that case, initially, right, when you first prescribe, then the possible answer would be to DC the medication. This patient's been on the medication for a while. Okay, so adjusting the dose would be the most appropriate act. Plus, they didn't say they have a plan, they have occasional suicidality without a plan. If you discontinue the medication, the patient would be at risk for serotonin discontinuation syndrome, initiate hospitalization immediately due to the thoughts is excessive and neither warranted, and initiate cognitive behavior therapy to address her symptoms. It is a positive thing, but it would not be the main option here between adjusting her dose. By adjusting her dose, you most likely would achieve resolution before CBT benefits could equilibrate the situation, could bring about the same results, right? Now, in real life, some studies have looked at SSRIs, SNRIs, or whatnot versus therapy, and they are head-to-head. However, medications, you're likely to achieve the results sooner. Remember, therapy, it takes a lot of work on both, on you and on the patient. On your part, not a big deal, right? Because this is what you do. But on the patient, they need to want to do that. They have to do the work, the homework, the wanting to change it, and that is taxing on some people. I love CBT. Okay. Okay. All right. Whitehead has raised her hand. What is your question there?
You hear me?
Yes, I do now.
Okay. Do I answer the questions on my phone?
Yes, you do. Answer the questions on your phone.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, next question. All right, hard question, right? All right, I thought it was super hard. Okay, I thought it was super hard because again, it goes back to respecting the patient's autonomy and decision to discontinue the medication. But you want to allow the patient full disclosure what that would look like. Not because this is said is a schizophrenia patient or a bipolar patient, or it could be major depressive disorder, right? We want to respect the patient's values always, but we want to allow them to have full information about the decision, right? Again, remember, Kahoot, it is a short answer type of game. It does not allow me to elaborate a lot on the answers at all. Okay, but here is what the full answer could look like. We want always to address the patient's autonomy while ensuring safety and well-being by giving full information of the pros and cons and so forth. But here's the key. Anytime you hear collaboration with the patient or collaboration with a physician or another healthcare team member, your eyes should be popping up, okay? Collaboration is the goal in all aspects of healthcare. You got 15 seconds. All right, I love it. I like it. I like it. All right, so can someone, if you want to, that pick the red, kind of walk me through your rationale for picking the red?
I picked the red, but I should have went with the green because it's another form of collaborating with the patient. I just picked it too fast.
Okay, okay. That happens. Sometimes we just pick something because we want to get more points. But I like that. Anyone that picked the red want to share why?
I picked the red because I want my patient to have trust with me.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Now, do you guys remember the reasons when you break confidentiality? We talked about 5 of them: imminent danger to self or others. We talked about when the, yeah, go ahead, Michael, please.
Elderly child abuse, imminent threat
Okay.
of danger, a court
Okay.
order,
Court
summons,
order.
litigation, and I believe the last one is
Insurance.
Insurance. Who's gonna pay for this, right? So we gotta give in those instances harm to self or others, when it is the insurance need to pay for that, when the court says you have to, when it's mandated by the states, that's outside of our hands, right? We have to hand over those cases. In this case, the 16 years old with suicidal thoughts, self-harm behaviors. We disclose this ahead of time during our interview to build rapport, but we say, hey, this is the line, right? And I trust that I can be your supporter for your mental health needs. However, there are certain things that if you disclose to me, I have to disclose forward, right? So that way you're not losing trust, but you disclose that ahead of time. Let's talk about an example here. Not that important, but I kind of like this one because it almost took me to court, right? Almost took me. I mean, it was the few days from court. I already had my airplane ticket and everything ready. So basically, I had a patient one time after 16 weeks of treatment. He disclosed something to me that I could not withhold. So I had to disclose to appropriate authorities, right? The person got arrested and so forth, right? So now the question became where both lawyers were interviewing me, and I'm in the middle, right? Why did you disclose this information? Well, a child could be at danger. I don't know that, right? When I mentioned ask for more information, the person wouldn't give it to me. So at that point, I could not, I could not make a safe diagnose. I mean, could not make a safe assessment and be okay that somebody is a dangerous, right? Eventually, my old patient accepted the plea guilt, for serving last time, right? But what I'm trying to say is, like, I disclosed that before we signed the document. Says, hey, if you disclose these things, my hands are tied. Anything else, whether they shouldn't, right? With the population that I work, whether they're doing drugs and things like that, being a adult, I'll mitigate and work with them as much as possible. But when it comes to child, elderly, I can't, right? I can't do that, right? But then I had to show that the patient signed the document and the disclosure was correct. And that being that I already had my hotel for a whole week of court and all that, right? Can be scary. And that should also bring a light to you that you might be on a similar situation at some point. All right, I love this question. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, we're going to adjust this in a second. I love this question that all four answers give you the right terminology, right? But which answer answered the question? 1 second here, let's move over. We said non-maleficence, the patient must prioritize preventing harm. That is the correct for non-maleficence. Beneficence promotes the patient well-being. Autonomy, respecting the patient's autonomy. And justice, doing what's fair, right? But 1 second here, let me just move over to the answers. And beneficence fits this case a little bit better, although autonomy was a very, very close answer, right? I wish I had taken the picture. I can't go back to this because I don't have the picture for this question. Otherwise, we would have discussed a little bit more why autonomy is an important principle, but not necessarily the best for this question here. But if you pick autonomy, this would have been a very strong second choice, right? But here, the principle that was in dilemma was benefiting the patient, doing good for the patient, which emphasized promoting the patient's well-being. Okay, but what we have to learn is ask yourself, even when the answers are right, is it answering the question? You will see tons of questions or answers on your test that the answer is right. However, if it's not answering the question correctly, then it's not the answer. All right, very good here, right? Here, beneficence. Look at what it says. The PMHNP should continue therapy to ensure the patient well-being. I think if you read this again, you may not have picked beneficence. Non-maleficence is patient consider the therapy harm and discontinue the treatment. Does it prompt autonomy, the respect of the patient choice, and collaborate on strategy, right? That's the best answer. All right, so these are your 5 players that are on the lead right now. And we have 3 participants that had 4 answers correct in a row. Okay, take a look on the rationale. Autonomy, which emphasizes the patient's right to make decisions about their treatment, should be prioritized in this situation, right? Respecting the patient's autonomous decisions to discontinue therapy if it is an informed choice, right? That aligns with the ethical principles of autonomy and the patient's preference and value and respect. The answer went on a little bit more by saying collaboration with the safety or strategies, right? Next question. So sad the Kahoot music is not playing today. Okay, guys. So another question in which all four answers are true statement. Let's take a look on B. Patient-centered care, prioritize patient well-being and provides a holistic care. It is a true statement, right? C, this prescription authority, PMHNP exercise the authority to prescribe medication. It is a true statement. Now, informed consent, the patient fully informed the patient about the legal restriction. It is a true statement and is a close second. However, what is the most correct? It's about your licensure. If you're not allowed to do something in one state, you have to stop, adhere to the new state regulations, and decline the treatment. Does it make sense? The point here is that please be on the watch out for right statements that does not answer the question. It's more of a strategy than a knowledge. Okay? So it's a strategy. If it's not answering the question, it cannot be the right answer. If you are out of the state and this is not allowed in a state that you practice or and the state in which the patient is currently located, you cannot prescribe. That's illegal, right? Okay, next question. Okay, you got 7 seconds. Pick an answer. Okay, again, the same scenario. Confidentiality. PMHNP respect the patient's confidentiality and do no disclosure. When should we break the confidentiality principle? When there's an imminent danger to self or others, right? So it can be tricky to go for A, but the right answer here, because you are applying the principle of confidentiality. However, there are instances in which that principle needs to be shared with others, right? It's an imminent danger. All right, someone has a hot mic, just in case, if you don't know. Okay, any questions on this one?
I thought C was correct.
Yeah, I was kind of confused about that one because I didn't see anything as far as safety goes in the question. So why is?
Yeah, no, the patient said imminent danger.
Oh, yeah, kind of.
Right, imminent danger. Yeah, that one is I specifically, when the team made the question, I kind of had to redo it to make it more clear as the imminent dangers. Initially, they had only, self-harm or like thoughts, and I made it imminent dangers to align with the ethical principle of confidentiality that you have to balance there. Okay.
Yeah, but it's not people that are in danger. It's the patient. It's his business. Who are we disclose? His wife? What does his wife has to do with him being in danger? We can hospitalize him, but not disclose to his family. I mean, disclosure, if the patient say no, means no. There's no compromise on it, unless he say he wants to kill wife. So then you disclose to the wife, but telling it to his family
Well,
makes no sense.
you know, no one said that. No one said that they're gonna tell the family.
The family.
No one said that.
Yeah, no.
That's reading to the question. They said about breaking the confidentiality, disclosing imminent danger. All right. That's when you have the principles. It basically is asking you in a straightforward manner, which the board will never will. When can you break confidentiality? No one said that to whom you're gonna say it, but you have to take in consideration that imminent dangers. In that case, you have to break confidentiality.
It says that the patient was worrying about stigma and didn't want his family to find out.
Right.
All right, nice shift. Let's huddle.
Okay. Hey guys, you have a mic on, please mute it. If you do.
Nuria.
All right, Irene, you have a question here?
No, I was gonna say that we should break confidentiality. He didn't say to the family, but he's trying to test us whether we know when we can break that.
That's it.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Trying to
remember.
Test, yeah.
The questions will never be very clear. Almost never, unless if it's from module 1, which is science, right? You always need to get the content and be able to apply it without adding information to it. Okay. Janet, do you have a question?
Yeah, Dr. Lopez, I thought C would be the first one before I think of A. Think of B, meaning that I have discussed the concerns with the patient, and now I can proceed to report to the authorities if I have to.
Yeah, I don't remember what was the C answer. While discussing the patient's concern and exploring alternative ways to provide support is important, it should not delay the appropriate action needed to ensure patient safety, specifically when the patient is at risk. Okay, we'll keep on moving, guys, and I'll take a picture of the next one so we can always look back at the question. All right, 10 seconds. All right, so I took a picture here. It says, if I can read, PMHNP is providing therapy to a patient who has expressed homicidal ideation. It has disclosed a specific intention to harm a particular individual. So it's an imminent danger. So what do we do during imminent dangers, right? Questions like that, usually, alerting the police or, things that you can control the situation will be the right answer. Abina, go ahead. Ask your question. You have to unmute yourself.
I have a question.
Yes.
All right. So in this kind of situation, I've come across of a question that says a patient came in to see a provider and disclosed that he was going to harm his father. And as a PMHNP, what will you do? And the options were that one, you would contact.
So let me go back to that. I do understand what you're saying, and I do agree. The difference is, as we discussed before, this specific question had stated that at the bottom of the question that you fully know the Tarasoff principles, and then you had the patient's, the imminent, the other person at risk information. So here it was testing you whether this is the Tarasoff, if you know what the Tarasoff principle is.
So would you contact the father or you would contact the
So
police?
Let's go back here.
Okay.
Always the right answer, the board of nursing or contacting the police. The third option is the one that you're speaking of, in which the questions allude you or pretty much telling you, hey, this is applicable to your state. Remember, this is a national board. Some states, the Tarasoff principle is applicable, some is not. In the question, at the bottom of this question, because it's my question, it said that the Tarasoff principle is applicable. In this case, all what I'm testing you is, do you know what the Tarasoff principle is? Yeah, so it's a detail. So questions can be right or wrong depending on the minor detail that's included. Okay, but great question, because a lot of people get caught up on that. And the reason we get caught up on that is because sometimes we just go straight to the information that we receive without really being critical that things can change depending on what the question is. Okay, Queen, go ahead, ask your question.
Okay, I was assuming the reason why we formed the law enforcement was because of the fact that they had an actual plan and they were letting them know they were going to like act on that plan. That's why we had to inform. And of course, Tarasoff's principle was at the end of it. But I feel like if imagine the question she just asked, right? And it also like the previous student, the question she just asked, say if it did have Tarasoff's at the bottom, but the patient had no active plan. Would you still call it law enforcement? No, you would essentially father, right?
But yeah, that specific question is tricky, and you'd have to read the entire question to really fully understand. The question was very telling that the Tarasoff principle is applicable in your state. Anytime the questions tell you that, is basically asking you, do you know what does it mean? In that case, alerting the person that it is impossible dangers. The question went along to say, hey, you know the person's contact number and information. The Tarasoff principle is applicable to your state. Things like that in the same question. Does it help a little?
Yeah, I think I feel like I just need to see the question and the scenario.
Right.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So it is on our diagnostic test 3. It is a tricky question, right? Because usually calling the police, calling the State Board of Nursing. Why calling the State Board of Nursing? Because it's within your scope or not. So basically, you assessing the situation. Calling the police because it's always a safe answer. Unless if the question goes on to be like, hey, this is a situation, someone is at danger, this is applicable in your state, you have the patient's information, the other person's information, it went above and beyond to ask what you should do next. Okay, it's an exception, and most of the time it will be the first 2 options. All right, thank you for the question, thank you for the clarification for sure. All right, so what is going to be a reading incorrectly. All right, if you have an answer, I think this is meant to say several studies. Now one study, or one article, one case, several studies put it together. Yeah. To be level 1, level 2, level 4. The third answer is not right.
Yeah, you might fix the levels later.
Yeah. So I do apologize for this question. Okay, so it meant to say here, and I do apologize for the big option there. When you have a collection of articles that are high evidence and you put them all together to come up with one possible solution or one possible recommendation, we look at systemic meta-analysis, which will be level 1. So the question was a bit, it was not written correctly. So I did miss that question. But understanding between level 1 and level 2. So the difference between level 2 is just one well-done randomized controlled trial, right? Which still is very strong, just not stronger than a 1. You have 5 seconds left. 4, pick an answer. Huh? All right, so that answers directly to the question. Right, when we look at the evidence, we really look at the quality and the strength of each of the research that's being done here, right, and assess how well the study is conducted and so forth. It is the first time joining. I missed your question. We would love to. I couldn't read the. If you want to mute yourself and ask the question, you can. Otherwise, I will have to open my other screen and read the question.
No, it was one of your teammate members who put a comment in the
Oh,
chat.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Never mind. Thank you. Okay. Next question. Okay. So EBP, right? Evidence-based practice. In research, nothing is proven, but it's strongly suggested, right? So when we do EBP, right? So we're looking for a structured evidence-based type of care. The blue one almost got me, but it says EBP guidelines eliminate the needs for clinical judgment, or I didn't read the eliminate portion, right? Which we always need clinical guide, decision-making, judgment, clinical judgment in decision-making, despite of what the research says. So let me give you an example. Let's say that you have a patient and your patient is prescribed on medication X. After you've been treating the patient for a few months, a FDA warning comes up that says patients on these medications should be assessed for X, Y, and Z. Something that's dangerous. You can make it up whatever you want. What do? Do you call the patient and tell the patient to stop the medication immediately? Or B, do you conduct your own assessment and provide informed care? Let's say the FDA warning was for rapid increase in suicidality. Would you do A, stop the medication and call your patient immediately? Or you do B, conduct your own research and, for your decision? Anybody want to talk about that?
B,
right? Even though the FDA, there's a warning on that medication, it doesn't mean you should stop your treatment, right? But you need to take that in consideration, in strong consideration, and then you need to pull up the research and the reasons why you should continue or discontinue the medication alongside with the patient. Just because there is an FDA warning, well, a lot of medications have FDA warnings, right? SSRIs, or really any antidepressant carries FDA warning for possible suicidality, suicidal thoughts increasing, specifically for those that are younger than 24 years old. Right? But it doesn't mean we're not going to prescribe that medication. Okay, so refer the patient to the same background healthcare provider, mental health provider, right? So it does not is not what you do. That's called passing the buck, right? So you want to respect the patient norm and adopt therapies for the concerns of communication this issue, right? The other option was C, disregard cultural norms. I trust that if you were in our class, culture is very high yield on the board, right? Anything that says disregard the patient's culture or cultural concerns is very, very likely to be the wrong answer. Okay. And it could be, the board can even go into very difficult scenarios in which you'd say this would never happen in life. But understand, you're taking the board, cultural considerations, very strong topic. All right, moving on. You got 8 seconds. Pick your answer. All right, great. So consider the family concerns. Let's talk about that for a second. Very rarely, if ever, the family concerns is more important than the patient's safety or what's important for the patient to begin with, right? So the scenario here discloses that the patient's acute psychotic or psychosis, right? You want to take the patient's concerns and the family concerns in consideration. In this case, assess the client, the patient, explore least or less restrictive environment and safety option. That is a full answer, right? But be careful with the questions in which address the patient's family and not the patient's need. Is very likely to be wrong answer. Okay, is the patient first, not the family. And you will see scenarios in which can be good scenarios, like someone with Alzheimer's, right? Dementia. It's very taxing on the family. But if the question is answering because it's very taxing on the family and not on the patient, be careful. Because you are doing the service, the number one priority is your patient, not the family. I know it can be very taxing, it can be very difficult. But for example, answering a question like that by saying admitted to a nursing facility to decrease the stress on the family versus admitting to the nurse facility to promote the well-being of the patient, right? Especially when the question really talks about the family being up all night and suffering, the patient going away and open the door and escaping the house, and the family doesn't know what to do. It elaborates a lot on the family. The answer is the patient, not the family. Not to say that we're not concerned about the patient, the family, but be careful. That is a trap, right? So answer the questions that relates to the patient and not necessarily to the family first. All right, so most of you guys got it. Remember what we learned about healthcare policy, right? You want to implement, you want to formulate, implement, and evaluate healthcare policy. Always address barriers and supporters before going to the stakeholders, the CEO of the hospital, the management, things like that, okay? We covered this a lot in our
Can you
class.
please repeat that again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem, my dear. Anytime you are dealing with healthcare policies, okay, there are a few instances that we mentioned where it takes place. That will be the environment and how healthcare policies usually are formulated. And here the answer, it mentioned implementation, formulate, implement, and evaluate the healthcare, assess supporters and stakeholders. Okay, be mindful of the supporters and barriers, and then going for the stakeholders in that order. Okay, so as part of our class, that we kind of discuss this in detail. And it's kind of, we can't really go in detail here just because it would take a little while and it's part of the course slides. But most of you guys got it. And if you don't, please look over our PDF, Module 5, Healthcare Policies, in specifically. Now, options that address cost. It is a real big deal. But remember, it never trumps patient safety, never trumps benefiting the patient before cost, specifically on the board. Okay? Not to say it's not a consideration, especially in real scenarios, right? All right, we're almost there, halfway through. All right, we got 7 seconds. Take an answer. And 2, 3, and go. All right, guys. So one thing about Kahoot is, again, it has to be fast. And the answer is always short-handed, right? The question, PMHNP is advocating to improve mental health care for the underserved population in their states. And then it goes to say they decided to engage in policy-making efforts. So when you are engaged in policy efforts, you want to align yourself with the organization, because alone you can do basically nothing. With a organization, you can move things around. So you want to advocate for state bills, right? Articles or new laws that increase funding for those at need. Specifically, the question said the underserving population, okay? Now, C is a true statement, participate in research, health care, telehealth effective data. Sure, but is this a complete answer? Is this answering the problem for the underserving population? Be careful with true statements that is not answering the question before you pick any answer. Okay? Green one, provide free mental health screening and counseling to the underserving. Sure, it is answering the question, but which one will have the most impact? Advocating for the state bill and increased fundings, or you providing free mental health service? Always remember, you want to do things that it is to the benefit of most. You can achieve your reach can be beyond than the one-to-one conversations. In case of mental health, giving a class versus being on the radio, which one would reach most possible patients or who, in those scenarios?
On the radio?
Yeah, absolutely. On the radio, you want to reach the most customers possible patients. Okay. So providing mental health service to the underserved is definitely valuable, but it's not a direct example of policy making. Again, did they answer the question about policy making? No, it is something that is very valuable, but it doesn't address the policy making aspect, right? This action is more aligned with direct clinical care rather than policy development. Again, it was one of those questions. Great statement, looks great, but doesn't answer the question, it's not the right answer. Keep that in mind, that we are learning as we do more questions, right? It's a hard question, though. Okay, it's a hard question. So you have two options here. The committee is in the debate about policy changes. One of the issue is spending coverage to include a wider range of mental health service, while the other argues what it should focus on, the cost containing to keep insurance premium affordable, right? These are two good things. So we want to find a balance between both of them to increase mental health coverage to those in need. Okay? You don't want to definitely refrain from the debate. Good, no one picked that. But the blue advocate only for the containment, keeping premiums affordable, is just one-sided kind of answer. The two proponents or the two options are great options, right? Good options. So finding a balance between A and B would be the best outcome in this question here. What is Jish culture? Discuss this on our module 5.
Not blaming others.
Okay, that's a good answer. All right, you got two, and 1. Right? Just culture is just that, not blaming others, but looking at the system. Could it be that the error was because someone didn't have a scanner? Could it be that the nurse had 10 patients? Could it be, what could have been other than straight up the nurse did not want to follow protocols? If that is the case, then we have to hold the nurse accountable. But otherwise, we look for systems in place that could have prevented the harm to the patient, or or things that could improve patient care. So when we think about quality improvement, two things that we talked about should come immediately to your attention. All right. So yeah, quality improvement, right? We should think about performance improvement, quality reviews. I mean, quality chart reviews, PDSA, right? But here we definitely want to contact the staff involved, the key, you know, those that are actively engaged, gather their input and then identify improvements and resolve them, right? Quality improvement project. What do we think of immediately? All right, so we talked about quality improvement, right? We said, hey, when we do quality improvement, we do retrospective charting, right? Audits. And we also, quality improvement, PDSA process should come to mind, okay? We discussed this on last Tuesday, right? If you're not sure about this process, look at our PDFs or one of our videos on module 5, okay? So here specifically talks about regular audit process to review the patient's charting or assessment documentation, which is retrospective chart reviews. Again, quality improvement process. What do you need to identify first? Okay, so first you need to know what's the problem before you start getting data, right? You need to know what you're getting data on. So identify the problem, develop implementations, interventions, and monitor and gather data on the continuous, right? So remember PDSA, right?
Dr. Lopez, in
Yes.
real situation, sometimes you may work your problem from the data that already exists. So
Right,
I don't know.
absolutely. But you gotta look for, you gotta know what data you're looking for. In order to do that, you need to know what's the problem, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're just gathering data, but you don't even know what's the problem, then you be getting, be collecting data for many years because you're not focused. So there is a problem. Then we collect data implementations on that. We reevaluate, and then we make new changes. Okay, we got to start with the problem. So this is more so of the order in which you do things, rather than one answer is right and the other one is not. It's more of the order. Where do you start? You start with the problem. In order to gather information, you got to know what the problem is so you can gather data. All right, hopefully that helps a little. Okay. All right. So let's do one thing, because the answer here, it seems to be a bit, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to share the PDF, and then we're going to go through the PDSA format one more time. So that way, if you are confused, maybe we'll be able to clarify some answers, right? When we look at the performance improvement, we got to think of two things: PDSA and retrospective charting reviews. All right, so let's see if I have a good example here. All right, so here we are, quality improvement, right? Let me see if quality improvement. Okay, so this is mentioned on page 55 on your purple book as well. All right, so when you do quality improvement, you look at the data. You already identify the problem. There is a problem, this way you want to do quality improvement, right? We will look at the problem, a project that's designed to improve the system. Three things: improve the system, decrease cost, and improve productivity. That is the reason why we do quality improvement. Three things, right? So improve the system, less errors, improve productivity, see more patient, better quality healthcare quality, and obviously the least important for the board is decreasing costs. Got it. We do that how? By looking at the retrospective chart review. So anytime you're looking at the charting, looking at the patient data, you already identified the problem to look to see what could be the possible solution, right? So then this is just an example that at any time you hear quality improvement, I want you to think immediately retrospective chart review. That's one thing. So, and then we gotta go at PDSA. Again, if you are not in a class, you gotta know what PDSA. Few things for the board. You gotta know what CAGE stands for by the letter. If you kind of know, you will get questions related to that wrong. If you kind of know what PICO stands for, you will get these questions wrong, because it's very easy to pick any of those letters and make up something. PDSA is another one. Frames is another one. You got to know what the letters stand for. Now, back to quality improvement, retrospective charting review, and PDSA. These are the two things you got to think immediately. So what's the PDSA that I'm talking about? You plan, you do, you study, and rewatch it by initiating another cycle. right? It's a 4-step wide process for change, solving the problem and improving again. We do this in a small scale. Let's say we do this in my unit before allocating this to all hospital within my system, right? We don't want to start with all hospital and then comes to my unit. We want to do a trial, a plan, do, study, and act. Is a scientific model for improvement of the problems. And it is stated, endorsed by the Institute of Health Care Improvement to accelerate quality of care, right? So what do? You plan the change, you plan the change, you carry out the plan, you study the results, and then you rewash it in another format. This is what we learned. Now let's reiterate this again and change X, Y, and Z that wasn't working out. So decide what action will improve the process as you reevaluate. Now let's put this into practice a little bit. So let's say you have a problem in your hospital and that the rooms are not being cleaned fast enough, correct, a lot of dissatisfaction, maybe some infections going on. So you want to do a plan, do, study, act. So you start by, based on the key learnings, you plan, you want to start with the environment service, right? So maybe the housekeeping service at the hospital, right? And you want to join them in a team, the key players here, or key players, right? So you want to identify the steps in the process of cleaning the rooms. Hey, how does it happen? Do you get a call? Do you get a text? How do you know the room needs to be cleaned? And you establish how the custodian are notified that the rooms needs to be cleaned. So you kind of understand where they're coming from. So that's the planning. The do part is you want to change that from, let's say they receive a call every time, to a pager, in which the cleaning phone number to a mobile paging system. Instead of calling, mobile pager, right? If you are older like me, you might still know what the pager is. And you want to train the custodians and the front desk personnel on how to use the new system. So you plan, you do, and then you move to the study. In here, you want to measure the average time it takes to the cleaners to be notified that the room needs to be cleaned. So that is the study portion of the implementation. And you compare it to what is predicted, or your hypothesis. I'm not going, this is not research, but hey, I think that if we had pagers and they were notified quicker, the rooms would be ready faster. Did it happen or not? Right? And you analyze the results with the team. And now is the real wash, which is the act. Here is based on the key learning, what you learned from the project, right? And you reestablish, okay, those folks the rooms were getting cleaner faster, but the problem is that not every cleaning personnel has a pager. So only one of the team members had the pager, and therefore delay the communication. So the next act would be to give a pager to each one of those folks that provide the service, right? You found that changing the pager you found that changing to pager decrease the time to notification, but that is a system that needs to be, that is a system. Ugh, let me see here because I can't barely see it. Sorry. You read it here? Okay. You found that changing to a pager decreased the time to notification, but the system is needed to decide which custodian will be deployed to the ED. Let's say this was case in the ED, right? You proceed with the new plan again. So you start from the beginning again, and you solve this problem now on the first iteration, and then you start again here. In summary, when you think of process improvement, think first, or not first, but two things: retrospective charting reviews to analyze the problem, and the second, the plan, do, study, act. Again, you need to memorize what plan, do, study, act is, the letters, and you need to know the order. Plan, do, study, act, not plan, study, do, act, because it could be questions in which they'll mix those orders and ask which one is the correct answer. It can be that tricky, right? So hopefully this is kind of helps a little bit on that portion of the retrospective charting. Guys, there will be 27 questions from this module. It is stated in a blueprint. So even though it's one of the easiest, you have to really focus on understanding the content. Otherwise, you might miss few questions. We should be getting all those 27 questions from this module. Okay. Any question on a retrospective charting review, the PDSA format, or quality improvement? Okay, and always test it in a smaller scale, the ED only, before implementing the whole plan to the hospital, right? It would be a wise step, because what we always think is going to happen is not always true, right? We have to collect the data to find out if it actually did happen, or what kind of kinks we have to work along the way. You have 10 seconds. Might have your mic on, please mute it. All right, so we're getting there. It's a cultural question. It requires a culturally sensitive, right? Here, when we look at the culturally sensitive answers, we don't want to standardize the treatment for all patients the same, right? We want a patient-centered model which value the patient's opinion, and that a treatment could be similar but not the same. We want, for culture answer, we want to incorporate cultural assessment, right? In other words, how does it, how you guys do this in your culture, right? How do you know this is a cultural answer? By looking, if it says someone's from another country, doesn't speak English, you'll have barriers to, that would prevent them from getting the care that they need, for example, right? Okay. Okay. All right. So this is you want to always give a culturally sensitive answer, okay, when it comes to a cultural question. All right. Okay, next question. 3 seconds. Pick an answer. All right, so most of you guys got it here. So I am going to show you the answer. And these are the leaders so far. All right. You want to acknowledge and respect in the patient's culture's belief and considering them in assessing, and the care plan is the most appropriate approach. Even if sometimes it sounds difficult to believe. For the board, if it's a cultural question, do your best to answer in a way that's culturally sensitive, even if it's very different than what you would do in your hospital. And this has to be one of the most difficult things to do, because the board could easily go overboard and put things that are just difficult to see that in real life. But it's only testing you about culturally sensitive answers. Okay, so fight the urge to add information, what they could do with this piece of a feather or whatever might be. Fight the urge when it's culturally sensitive questions, okay? Eight seconds. Pick an answer. 3, 2, and 1. Yeah. So acknowledge cultural practice, but prioritize clinical assessment. Okay. All right. So basically here I'm saying, hey, I recognize what you're coming from, but I'm going to do things that are clinically sound to the practice that I deliver. Not wrong, but it's not a culturally sensitive answer, right? So compared to explore the patient cultural healing spiritual beliefs, right? That is a cultural sensitive answers, right? On our test, we go as far as making absurd scenarios just to explore the strategy of picking a culturally sensitive answer. So let's give an example. For example, let's say you bring your child, well, let's say somebody from Africa. So you know it's a culturally sensitive answer when the description says someone from Brazil, from Africa, from Jamaica, from any other place. It starts that way, brings the child, and because the child has these blisters on his arm, and basically one of the answers could be collect culture and sensitivity to prescribe the right antibiotic. That sounds like a very good answer, doesn't it? But it does not beat things like, help me understand what rubbing leaves on the child's arm means in your culture. That's a good example, right? A very sound scientific answer compared to a very culturally sensitive answer. That would be the right answer. I'm making up stuff here, right? But just to get you to think about culturally sensitive answers. Anybody has a question here? No? Okay, moving on then. Right, culturally sensitive, understand the healing stick roles and significance. That's a great example, right? It's very unlikely that your hospital or my hospital would allow someone to be admitted with a healing stick, right? Because we can say, well, it's a safety, patient safety concern. But here again, it is in the realm of culturally sensitive answer, right? All right, so we're definitely getting there. Conduct a community mental health awareness campaign about mental health. Again, is the principle where can you reach the most patients rather than one set of a patient, whether it's a classroom versus a radio kind of question. All right. So here again, when can we break confidentiality is the principle that's being tested, right? When the court says, hey, lost my connection. Yeah, welcome back, Irene. When the patient, when the court says, hey, I need those records, you got to give it in, right? When there's insurance concerns, they got to pay the bill. When there is imminent danger, you have to break confidentiality, right? In legal situations, right, may be subject to disclose through the court order or subpoena. Here's a perfect example. You remember the case in which I was almost involved? The court said I have to give my charting, right? So they delivered that, I sign it, and then I give it to them, right? So, but again, the charting was done, patient said X, Y, and Z, I follow up with this, and then we kind of went over in a very good, deliberated way because I knew it, that that patient was going to be in trouble and that my records was going to be subpoenaed. I already knew it. It didn't happen a year later, right? So the probably was the investigation, everything was going on, and until 20 days before the trial, I was contacted. But I knew it way before then that my chart would be looked at it very carefully, I even alerted the hospital legal team a week later, like, hey, this is happening X, Y, and Z, right? But there you go. If your stuff is, if the court says you need to give it up, then you give it up the information, right? You don't want to withhold against a court order for sure. Irene, I think this is the last question. All right, so very good, everyone. We're almost at 100% on this question. Yeah, someone wants to participate on the research. Your job is to provide informed, informed decision making to the patient, allowing the patient to make their decision, respect their autonomy, and that is, here's the pros, here's the possible cons, this is what may happen, this is the value of doing it, this is the value of not doing it, and let them make the decision, right? All right, now we got the music. All right. Who's the winner? Okay, Melissa, KW, Boy, and Sting. I know some of you guys were very, very close, very, very close to making the podium, and that is exciting. That means everyone is really prepared, getting yourself ready for the board. So what we'll do is, for those 5 folks that are still, I'm gonna take a picture of this, and those folks that I got the 4th and 5th place, email me like, hey, this was my position. And then once you pass the board, if you feel like you want to take the cycle farm or another course, you let me know, and then I will give you $50. So I make it, trying to make it, this is rewarding for you as much as possible. And there is no easy way on passing the board. There is no easy way, right? Everything is hard work. But, you're doing this for yourself. It's your time to shine, right? So,
yeah, it's not a real person.
Let me stop this game now, and we can answer some questions here. So, what is happening in the next, not this week, but the next week, right? So we're gonna do a super crash course review. This is gonna be a little bit different. It's gonna be a different format, a little bit different information. As the information is the same. What I'm gonna try to do is give you some pre-work, some pre-tests. So that way, when you take the crash course review, the super crash course review, 2 days, is going to be on the 26th and 27th, 26th, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Well, it's 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so we might spend 4 hours. And Sunday, we spend almost all day, so it's going to be 9 in the morning Eastern Standard Time, right? So it's going to be 2 days to discuss anything that's in your mind, to answer any of your questions. I am going to get those quizzes ready and have a mixture of exercise leading to the big day, okay? I'm going to try to get my slides in a different format, So that way we can participate differently, maybe doing questions just like we did today, but in a classroom format, not so much questions. It's going to be long, but it is your chance to ask any questions. There will be no hurrying in get the slides done and get out of here. This is not what I do. And I know for some people that can be a little bit annoying because it can be a little bit slow, right? But I promise you that the intent is that someone, you already have seen this review, but somebody else ask you a question, allowing them to ask questions. It is the key to success, right? Anyone can pick up something and go as fast as possible to save their time, but this is not what I want for you guys. I want you guys to be 100% pass. And that might be that we need to stay together for longer. That might be that we need to answer more questions. That might be some of your concerns needs to be answered via email, right? And that is the reason why we're doing 2 days. We can do this in 6 hours, I promise you. But I promise you too that would not be beneficial to you or to most of you guys. We got to take it easy, got to take it slow, make sure that we understand the content, make sure that we follow up through with questions, okay? So what I'll do at this time is answer a few of the questions, and I'm going to do by hand raised. So let's start with the first person, which is Mrs. Queen. What is your question? If you do have one, you unmute yourself, please.
Yes, my question is just in regards to the Kahoots. What would you say on like average, like a good like range? Because you know it's out of 60 questions.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends. That's a great question. Thank you for asking. It really depends where you are on your studies, right? I mean, reasonably speaking, somebody has to be first, no matter how good or how bad everyone is, and somebody has to be last, no matter, you know, numbers are numbers. Now, if you ask me, I think you're a very, very strong test taker, and you really understand that material. It's only module 5. If you're in the top 20, you're very, very strong on this topic. Now, reasonably, you know, you're doing super well if you're in the top 40. But again, I don't want you to give you numbers, right? It does not really reflect who you are. It just reflects where have you been. It doesn't define you, right? It could be that we have people with us that are here for 4 months, 6 months. Obviously, they should be scoring in a top position. So please do not put yourself in a position whether you're the number 65. It doesn't matter. We have people that are, yeah, no, I'm just trying to, not for you, Queen, but for others that are, if they score really low, it's just understanding that, okay, I'm not there yet, but I will be there.
No,
Okay.
my question is not in regards to the ranking, but you know, towards the end, it actually gives you how many you get correct personally, each person. It gives you your actual score out of 60. So I just want to know, like, say if you got like a 50 out of 60, is that good? Or maybe like a 45 out of 60? Like, that's what I was trying to gauge.
80%.
80%.
Would be, yeah, 80% I would say you're pretty strong. Because if we hit 80% on anything, we still have 10% of the test to blow it away, you know, to feel anxious and forgetting things. But if you, I don't get those data. You do. It's personal to you. So I don't see, I only see the first 5 players. That's all what I get from my end. So everyone, each one of you guys get your own data separate. I don't see that data. So thanks for letting me know. Ray. You have
yes, hi, Dr. Lopez. Yes, I have 2 questions. I asked one yesterday about the question when after we do the module. If there is a way that when we practice question, we can go back to where we left off.
No, not yet. Not yet.
Okay.
So the answer is 2 answers. I'm burning the midnight oil because we are switching systems soon. I don't want to say when because I still got at least 2 weeks of staying up until 5 in the morning, well, not 5, 1 in the morning or so to get those questions transferred. But we'll be transferring very soon. We already got the deal and agreement. So I'm on the works of transferring for you to have your own mobile question bank that you can answer on your phone. But again, I don't want to promise things and fall short on delivering on time but not yet, currently not, but there is a big change coming up in the next few weeks. Just FYI, I'm not sure if you're going to benefit directly from it or not. So what we have we have in the past helped over 2,000 students being PMHNP board certified. What I suggest is either do not close your browser, and not a good answer, or knowing where you stopped. Let's say you stopped question 50. When you go back to that module, just click any answers. Nobody cares. You know, like, I'm not looking at that to make a judgment on your performance. I'm looking at your time on the other system. I'm looking at your diagnostic test and how many times you took the diagnostic test.
Okay.
You know, if I see that you spend, hey, 25 hours studying and you score 80, I can tell you right now that you will pass, reasonably speaking, right? Now, if you score 85 in one test and the second test you score 70, I'm very concerned, because I know you took the first test more than once, or you memorized the information, because the second test is just slightly different.
Okay.
You should not be that much of a decrease. So I'm looking at those data points. I'm not looking at your question bank per se at this moment. So two things you can do is leave the browser open, or annotate question number 50. When you come back to that, just go click, B, everything until question number 50 and start again. I know it's not ideal, and that's why we're changing a little bit.
Thank you. And then my other question to you, it's I see you do one-on-one with student. How this is work? How do you get that one-on-one?
Great. Thank you, Ray, for the question. I can't do one-to-ones. You know, sometimes I go all day without eating. Unfortunately, it's not healthy and not recommended by any means. That is absolutely very difficult for me to do one-to-ones. So what I did, I recorded previous classes that I did one-to-one with students, and I put on module 9.
Yes, I see them.
So you can, after you do modules 1 through, well, really, after you do 1 through 8, take some moment to quiz yourself, because the one-to-one is nothing but me asking the other person random questions. How do you do this? What if this situation? So there's almost 8 hours of recording there. I know it's excessive, but I ask permission. Do you mind if I record and then provide this to other students, right?
Oh,
so
he's really good. It's really good, because I go by it, and then it's really good. I was wondering if I could do something like this too.
Yeah, and I do apologize. I really try to be there, but it's almost physically, humanly impossible to be there for everyone, and this makes it
I understand.
impossible.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Shaw, Rafinita. Okay, hi. What is your question?
Lopez.
How are
Not
you?
a question, but you
Okay.
mentioned that next Saturday, the 26th, is at 5 o'clock, but your email said 6.
Oh, all right. So we're gonna keep the email. 6 o'clock it is. I didn't even think I sent the email. Did I send an email?
Yes.
No, not yet. That was the last one.
You sent an email for both telling us about the weekend.
Okay.
26th and the 27th.
Yes.
And that's okay. 26, 27. So 6 o'clock it is then.
I
We're not
didn't
gonna
know
we'll make it changes. You know, it's always trying to accommodate for as many people. So when we look at 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, may be great for a lot of people. But what about the people that are working in different time zone that 5 o'clock is 3 p.m., right? So even though I may have to extend a little bit later for me, but I'm trying to do the most good for most students. That's why 6 o'clock is a great time. That's why we change 5 o'clock Kahoot to 6 o'clock to allow those folks to get time to get home, and you know, because it might be 3 o'clock on that time zone, right? So 6 o'clock it is. We'll send an email. We'll send directions on the link, and we'll send directions on the quiz that I'm making as a prep. So the idea is that everyone really should look at the
quiz,
the crash course review, right? And do the quiz. So that way we are that farther ahead on the content. And then we can just jump into the content, answering questions that is still unclear, rather than trying to explain each of the topics in detail. So it will be a little bit of work ahead of time, and hopefully this is the second time you see it and benefit you the most. Okay. All right. So yes, it gives points for how many? Yeah, I couldn't read the rest. Next question is Ukamaka. Sorry.
Yes.
Hi.
Yeah, hi. I have a question. So
Sure.
for this cohort we just did, is there any way one can have access to the questions?
Yeah, so this is it was recorded. It will be placed on YouTube, right? And then you can watch it again. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question. You can watch it again. Now, those questions, they come mainly from our question bank, module 5.
Okay.
So if you are in my class, you shouldn't be watching this video again unless if you really want to. You have access to those questions. Sure, okay. The questions change slightly, the answers, because Kahoot does not allow me to put full answer, but you have a better content on your question bank.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so I want to also add something to that. We do not record the live live sessions, because we already did live sessions for modules 1 through 5, because we already recorded them individually. It's better for you if you, for example, instead of watching a 5 hours class, have that broken down in 30 small little classes of, 10 to 20 minutes per class. So that way you keep on doing it. So ideally you should do module 1 videos completely, and then move to the question bank and do all the module 1. Go to module 2 videos, then move to question bank module 2. So you learn and you apply. You learn and you apply. And in between, we are talking and discussing things. Hey, Dr. Lopez, I don't understand this. Can you explain in a different way? Oh, I saw this question I still don't understand. I'll find a way to explain in a different way every time. So that way, at some point, you will fully know exactly what I'm trying to convey. Okay?
Thank you.
I just want to, yeah, my pleasure. Just want to piggyback because there's a question that comes up very often. This card is, I believe that's, sorry. Rowana.
It's
Yes, hi. Hello.
Hi, I just have a question pertaining
Sure.
to the diagnostic test. Is there any way that, because I did one and I don't remember what my score was.
Good. That's good. That's good.
That is a good thing that I don't remember my score.
Yes. Yes, it is. It is.
Oh.
All right. So I have done not many, but few researches, right? And one that I did in Afghanistan, it was called the pre and post first aid intervention. So basically, when I got to Afghanistan, there was no first aid for those that are just got in combat, shot, things like that. So what we did is I put a closets throughout the base that anyone can apply a tourniquet and increase life-sustaining changes, right? So what I did is, like, before we apply this change, what do they know about tourniquets? Not much. And then after they received, and then I give a test and collected those score. And after that, provide the training. Did that training improve their knowledge? So basically, it's the same thing we're doing here. One, when you come to the class, what do you know? Because let's say you score super high, so you maybe should jump into the crash course review, like Joe Modem, husband and wife, nurse practitioner, they score fairly high in the beginning. So I can just say, jump straight to the crash course review. You only have 17 days. Let's create a plan that works best for your schedule. And she passed the test today or yesterday, right? She was here earlier. So what we are doing is, why is it good that you don't know? Because when you come to module 7, you are going to take the same test. And now we can compare if the education provided was helpful or not. It was just good, and it wasn't helpful translating to questions, and then it wasn't good enough. It's true, right? Now, if it translates into more points and better understanding, then I am satisfied, you are satisfied. What we don't want people to do, we kind of just want people like, yeah, I got 60, but I'm not really looking at the answers, because I'm going to reuse that test to assess your knowledge up to complete modules 1 through 5. Does it make sense why I said it's good not to know now?
Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
Yeah. So because it's easy to fool the system, or even me, or even yourself. But now we know that for you, it will be a true answer and will dictate whether you should take the test X day or not. Because those that take those tests and they score 80 or better, they have over 99% of passing. This has been done over 2,000 times. So I can very confidently say that. Okay? So hopefully that answers your questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, my pleasure. Next person is Rosemary.
So I was just going to ask for this session on Saturday. Are you going to record it?
Yes, that one will be recorded. Usually not. I will record because it will be slightly different. Yes, but again, I did one already. Then I did a second one, and then I'm doing a third recording. So the crash course review is going to have many days of the same content. So it's kind of helpful, but I may have to delete one of the 5 trainings in that so it doesn't become too much and a burden rather than helpful for those students. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
My pleasure. Okay. And Michelle, Michelle, do you have a question? No? All right. So at this time, is anyone confused about anything? Michelle, please.
Yeah, Michael. Yeah, I just wanted to
Michael,
tell you
sorry.
that I was trying to get access to the question bank.
Okay.
I don't know if the login credentials are similar to the actual module credentials.
No, they are not. They are 2 different websites, 2 different systems.
Yeah, I know it's 2 different websites. What I'm saying is I never received like the login credentials for the question bank.
Yeah. So I think you did. It just went to your spam box and you have never seen or activated. So what I would like to ask you is to send me an email. What I'm doing, I'm going there as you, and I change the password as you, and I give you the password and your email address. So that way you can just copy and paste and link, and you'll be in. Sign in and you'll be in. But in order to do that, just send me an email, say, hey, Dr. Law, please.
I sent you one about like 2 hours ago, I think.
Okay. So yeah, I'm late. I'm about 24 hours late on responding emails, and probably even a little bit more than that. But thank you. I will be answering those emails probably as soon as I finish this meeting.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. My pleasure. Ray?
Yes, it's not a question, Dr. Lopes. I noticed that I never take the diagnosis test, but my second one say complete. I do not know why.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe you have clicked the box where it says, under. You may have wandered around. Not a problem. When you get there, after module 7, so be module 8, send me an email and say, you can go to all trainings on the top left upper corner, and then click module 8. And all you have to do is copy and paste the link, and you will be on the test.
Sound good. Thank you.
Just to piggyback off of that, mine said the same thing, but if you click on it and you try to take it, you will see it's not it hasn't been taken. Mine had the same issue, but it showed that it wasn't taken yet. So I'm still able to click on it to go to take the exam.
Right. And here's the thing, guys. I would like you, I know this takes a lot of planning. I would like you to take diagnostic tests 1 and 2, module 7 and 8, as if it was your board date. So let's say your board is on the 30th, and in your mind, you need to put your board is on the 15th. And then you take diagnostic test 1, as if it is the board. Don't casually take it, because casually take it, you're like, yeah, but I wasn't ready, so I wasn't really aware that I didn't know this, or I knew I didn't know this, right? So if you take it as if you're taking your boards, now we have 15 days to your board date to help you improve it. If you take it before your board date, it's really hard. And when you take 2 weeks before your board date, you learn your weakness, and you can still recuperate and recover from those patterns. Because what happened is you're going to see a lot of things that you know, but you made a mistake. You will likely to make the same mistake on a board date, unless if you kind of sit back, look at your answer, like, why am I missing all those questions that says except, or all of but, or, you know, weird questions. There is a pattern that's been developed, and you can look at the pattern and be like, oh yeah, I noticed I missed 5 questions and they're all exceptions questions. That is a good strategy. If you focus on the 15 being your board date and you take it, our test, and then you still have 2 weeks to really, but it will take some planning from your part, right? Okay, this week I'm going to do modules 1 and 2, or 1, and then you keep on tracking your time and organizing your thoughts and the commitment to study, and really trying to be on schedule. And it's not an easy task, but it could lead to a higher result on a board date. Okay. All right, Mrs. Clover, do you
Hi,
have a
Dr.
question?
Lopez. Yes.
Hello there.
So, hi. So let me get it. So we're not having class till next weekend, next Friday and Saturday. Am I correct?
Correct, because we had this weekend, we had Tuesday class.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, what we're gonna do is this weekend we're going to adapt the schedules. Normally we'll have 2 classes. Instead of having a 6 hours long class, we'll break it down in 2 days of 3 hours. So that way it's not exhausting on you guys, right? Give you a fresh start each day, makes it a little bit more. Plus 1 day of Kahoot. So we'll be meeting up 3 times a week.
Okay.
And then when we do have the crash course, it will be 2 days long. Very slow, very methodical, very much with you being the focus of the content, not being fast on the content to free up my time. That's not important. I mean, it is important to me, and it's important for my wife for sure, but it's, you know, you having the time to learn and ask questions is more important than anything.
And that's next weekend, correct? That's next weekend we do the
Not
class.
correct. The 26th, 27th
is the crash course, correct?
Correct. 6 p.m. on a Saturday, 9 in the morning on the Sunday. And again, you know, for some people that may be church time, right? We're gonna have to compromise in some things. You know, yeah. So I know somebody said, "Oh, it's my birthday." Yeah, but we kind of gotta do it, right? It's hard to fit everyone's schedule and be like, you know, crash course every week, and like
this is
it's gonna be
Eastern Standard Time, correct?
always in the Eastern Standard Time, so that way you guys can adjust your time zones. Yes. Okay. Mrs. Astro.
Yes, hi, Dr. Lopez.
Hello.
I can't read those questions that fast. 1 minute is too fast for me. It's like I have to just guess and click any questions half of time because if on a board, I mean, I like the idea of training to, you know, force myself to read it faster, but some of us have English second language and we are not just talking with accent. We actually, it's not like some African folks that they speak English down there, so they have accent, but they, you know, they actually know English better than
Right.
Americans.
But here's the thing though, on the board you will have 1 minute and 20 seconds, right? So 80 seconds total. So we have had not a lot of people, oh my God, I failed the board, but they were only able to answer 130 questions out of 175. So we're trying to always compromise on the time, but it's one of those things that the more you do it, the faster it will get, and kind of force you to maybe go a bit more toward your, you know, your comfort level. But over time, you should see your rankings and your position growing, and you will know that you know, it's the content that you're learning that is really helping more than the time. But I do hear you. Again, it's the, you know, trying to force you to be a little bit faster.
Yeah,
you know.
it works, but also could you please say something when a question shows up in the screen? Because with the phone, if you put the phone down and you just become silent, and I don't know if you just finish talking or if you actually, because like, oh, the question is already 30 seconds into it.
Yeah.
And then my phone is churning and my screen is churning, and I'm trying to minimize it and maximize it because I can't see. And by that time, it's like already like 5 seconds left. So you
Yeah,
just
no, I definitely can do that. And warning, hey, next question for sure.
that would be helpful.
Yeah, remind me of that again next time we do it, but I will certainly do that. Okay,
All right, thank you.
my pleasure. Mrs. Queen, do you have a question?
Yes, I'm sorry. I don't know if you mentioned this already, but my question was in regards to, I know you said the 26th and the 27th, you're going to do crash course review, but during the week, that Tuesday and Thursday, are we still going to have like regular, like
No.
commitment lecture?
No,
Okay.
so what we're gonna have is a series of, not a series, at least one test for you guys to complete. So basically preparing you for the question bank. I mean, for the crash course review. So we might have two tests of 100 questions each. I'm planning this to rewrite my slides in a different system that allows you guys to do answering on your phone while we're doing this. Going to be a little bit very different than what we've done before. We're going to send some homework, maybe few emails. Hey, think about these things, kind of prepping you for the big day. So it's kind of like it's going to be the whole week of work or some work. Now, do you have to do it? No, you can totally ignore and not do it. But for those that can and want to, there'll be opportunity to take an extra test or take opportunity to read my emails about few of the topics that I'll be sending, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 emails. So it'll be kind of leading up to the moment where we put everything together. So it will be more work than having a class.
And the crash course review is going to go over everything from module 1 through 5.
I wouldn't say everything. For example, we're only going to go over 3 points of Erickson, or the 3 stages that are most important. It's impossible to say, hey, let's go over Erickson and not take at least 40 minutes, right? So we can't go over everything, otherwise it wouldn't be a crash course. But will be what I consider the most critical, or what we have seen as students have troubles with. Now, ideally, modules 1 through 5, everyone should really be good at it. You don't have to be good at it when we have the crash course review. Again, it will be recorded and we will have other crash course reviews. It really depends when you're testing. But you really should take the time, 1 hour a day, to go through the modules. And it's 1 hour. I know most of you guys are very, very busy, mamas, daddies, and have a work and have families that depends on you, and time is a commitment. But think of the reward that you'll be getting, right? As a way to motivate you. Okay. All right. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
My pleasure. Rowana?
Yeah, me again. Just so that I'm clear, in terms of the crash course review, and you said you're sending out 2 tests. They're going to be emailed to us, or
Yeah, it will be links. Like, hey guys, prepare for the crash course review. Take this test, right? So get you in the mood, get you ready. It will be a few things like, hey, maybe I'm sending some emails about few points. Again, this is a new strategy that I'm trying to incorporate into the crash course review as a way to leading up to the moment where we spend more time together and still be a little bit faster than everyone just being first time seeing the subject.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, might be an email about strategies. Consider, like today we did a lot of strategies, right? Like specifically answers that are correct, but not answering the question. There was a lot of this today. A lot of, hey, this statement is correct, but it's not answering the question. Big red flag. All right. So it might be an email about strategy. Think about this. Think about that. Might be email about field of the therapies. Might be an email about X, Y, and Z. Just emails. It might be few a task or two along the way. It depends how much I can produce as material as we are getting ready for next weekend. All right. All right. Any other questions? Any concerns about anything? Thank you. It's my first time and I started with this module, so hoping to catch up. Yes, so thank you for that. You don't have to catch up. You are in the right place where you belong, right? We have people that are testing next week. It's very obvious, and I hope it is obvious that they are really, you know, taking the first 10 place, so 20th place, right? Everyone is equal. Myself and yourself, we're all humans, and there is not a better person than another. Where we are is nothing but different experiences, right? Maybe I had a little bit more of a mental health experience than you do, but you will be in the same position or similar or better few years from now. So if you're just starting today, it's very obvious that you may not have seen this content, and this is very distressful, right? We want it to be uncomfortable, but not in a way that you feel less inferior or that you can't keep up. You will progress as the weeks go by. What's important is not to take the test until you have completed modules 1 through 5, you have done the crash course review, you have done the question banks, and you feel like, hey, I learned, I feel confident, and then you should test. All right. So just, yeah, that's usually the process. My pleasure, Antoniette. Guys, what are the questions? What are the things that bother you? Or do you have any question about mental health, or any questions you have that we want to answer live right now? If not, totally cool. I'll see you guys not this weekend, following weekend. All right, good. So stay positive, email me, right? Got a question, email me. If the question hasn't been answered in 48 hours, email me again. Never text message me, never WhatsApp me, never Facebook, because with 20 different social medias, I might miss your question, or I just may look at it and not be able to action. Oh, Dr. Lopes, can you send diagnosis test 3 on my WhatsApp? Well, I might have 5 Williams in previous classes, or somebody that signed up and never been out of the course. Kind of hard to know and action things. When you send it via email, my team looks at it, open the email, put a little star for me to answer, or if they can't action whatever your requests are, we can, you know, process your request. But when you send to me via WhatsApp, it's very hard for me to find out who you are. Some of you guys have different names and things, and then I might end up not processing your request in a timely manner. So sending me an email. I love to hear where you are and what you are doing, and if you need any clarifications or any requests. Okay. All right. That being said, we also want to be very respectful of your time. Everyone have a great night and study hard. Take this the rest of this week, next week, to really study the question, the diagnostic test. I'm sorry, the crash course review, and that way you can go back and then start doing modules 2, 3, 4. Go to all trainings on your course and just do the crash course review. Review every material that's in there as if you are about to give a class. That good. So that way your confidence level really shoots up and you have no problem passing the board. That being said, have a wonderful night, everyone, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Good night, Dr. Malone.
Good night.
Dr. Lopes.
Good night, everyone. Good night.